Welcome back, friends and fans. Glad you could join me today for my artist talk for Atlanta Celebrates Photography. The subject of today's artist talk will be a portfolio I created back in 2013 called Paris to Marrakech. Right now, I'm reporting to you virtually from Marie Antoinette's bedroom. This is her view in the background, and I hope you'll enjoy this talk today, and hope you will tune in for my final talk, which will be on Wednesday at 3 p.m., wrapping up my talk series for Atlanta Celebrates Photography. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, the talk today is Paris to Marrakech. And this is a book that I created back in 2013. I will be covering the highlights from the book. And this was a story where I took my youngest daughter, Jordan, on a cultural adventure upon her graduation from high school in preparation for her entry to college, where she would be studying interior design. And we looked at a lot of different architecture along the way and experienced a lot of different cultures, from a very modern, art-driven, progressive culture to a very conservative Islamic culture in Morocco during the month of Ramadan. And I must say that Paris is not Paris without the Eiffel Tower. To me, Paris is a city of love, and the Eiffel Tower is the trademark for Paris. This is a picture of the Seine River. They have these river boats that run up and down, and this was a beautiful day. We managed to take this picture from a bridge overlooking the central district of Paris. We did see a lot of graffiti and other forms of interesting artwork on the streets. And under this bridge were these locks. And this is a highly texturized photo to give it kind of a painterly effect. But I did find it interesting that they put these locks on things, and they would put their names and initials, and kind of like a symbol of lovers were here. And I thought it was really kind of a cool little symbol of Paris and the romance that comes with the city. At night, we have the Eiffel Tower, center of activity in Paris, a lot of street activity, and again, a very iconic view of the city of Paris. We took a day trip over to Versailles. Versailles is the castle where the French, I guess, what would you call it? The French monarchy ended. It was a site of where the royalty lived in extreme opulence. And these French gardens outside the window of Marie Antoinette's bedroom is just an indication of how obsessed the French were with conquering nature, with structure and form. I love this picture. It's just very timeless. It just seems to me like something that just is frozen in time, and you can imagine yourself back in the days of the court, and just taking a look at everything that's been crafted for the view. Another site in Paris is the Sacred Heart Cathedral. I'm not good at speaking French, but I believe it's pronounced, I'll try not to butcher too bad, Sacré-Cœur, and it means the Sacred Heart. It sits atop a hill with a beautiful view of the city of Paris, and it's definitely a very big drawing point in Marmont for tourists to come day and night. This is back at Versailles in the palace. We get a chance to look at a variety of different rooms that are out there. This one is the Louis Philippe family room. Louis Philippe had this large space created by combining two existing rooms, In the evening, the king and his family, who enjoyed staying at Trianon, gathered here. It was furnished in the spirit of the times with game and embroidery tables, padded chairs, and sofas, upholstered in blue and patterned yellow. This is called the Blue Room. Again, it's in Versailles. You'll notice the extremely tall ceilings to create just a sense of air and royalty. All of the architecture is extremely detailed. You can look at these cornice boards up here and just get a sense for some of the carvings and the detail in these rooms. Of course, the upholstery is very ornate. Again, this is the way the royalty lived during the monarchy years. This is also an interesting room. This is Madame Adelaide's grand chamber. After Madame de Pompadour's death, this salon was transferred to the ownership of Madame Adelaide, who transformed it into her grand cabinet. The present cornice is restored to the style it had when Madame Adelaide occupied the room. The lovely instrument belonged to Madame Adelaide, which is most likely also the case with the violin. Madame Adelaide was renowned for her excellent violin play. The two large paintings are of Madame Adelaide's elder sisters, Madame Henriette and Madame Elizabeth, both painted by Nattier. The chairs are gilded and lined with Bouvet's tapestry. After we left Paris, we joined up with a tour group that we traveled across the Iberian Peninsula, and that being Spain and Portugal. And ultimately, we crossed at the Strait of Gibraltar to go into Morocco. And these are some of the country scenes that we saw along the way. The area was quite arid, bordering on desert, and desert in several places. Again, some more of the countryside. Some of these beautiful large trees providing shade in the farmlands. And this is what I consider a post-industrial image. You've got the silos, which are very industrial looking, and then you have the bus stop in front. And actually, this is the train stop where the train stops. And it's just a very interesting view of the countryside as you travel along and see the non-urban areas of Spain and Portugal. Here we're in the sausage market, and there's a lot of dried meat. This was quite a colorful place, and it was very interesting to see the way these meats are prepared and for market. Here we have some graffiti on some doors. A lot of places in Barcelona, especially, are full of graffiti. Very interesting graffiti, interesting color, and a lot of times the way they do this is very interesting as well. There's obviously, it looks like an eye here that someone has vandalized the painting work. But a lot of these gates, streets are covered, and the openings to these shops are covered with graffiti. And here we have a street scene. This is a cathedral. I don't particularly know the name of the cathedral, but I really like the tile work and the ground and the way it leads up as a welcoming draw into the church with this great enormous architectural, very Gothic style to this cathedral and this ancient architecture. Here's also a little roadside park that we found. I believe this was in Coimbra. And it was just a calm place to to sit back and rest from the summer heat, and it was quite warm during this time of the year. And these fountains and the way the water gurgles is just very calming and relaxing. This is a street scene. The sign up there is Anno de Fe, and that means the year of faith. And certainly the Catholic Church is very prominent in all aspects of life in Europe, especially in the Iberian Peninsula. Portugal is famous for its fado. Fado is a song that is sung by young men to court women. They appear outside their window in the evening, and they sing songs of romance to the women. And if the women like the song, they will flash their light on and off to indicate their approval. And if they don't, well, that's kind of a sign that they're not interested, go someplace else. This is graffiti depicting the fado. And while we were in Portugal, we were able to experience a fado performance in a small bar, and also at night after 11 p.m. when the fado singers would come out in the street. Everyone sat around. They would many times bring wine to drink and listen to the fado singers in their courtship. Graffiti is also big everywhere. You see this subway, or not subway, but this trolley car that's been painted over with graffiti. And I found it interesting, the level of artwork that's out there. You know, it is graffiti, but it does seem to have an interesting appeal in its unusual form. And from Lisbon, we took a day trip by rail over to Sintra, which is in the mountains. And in Sintra, there are 5 castles. We only had time to visit one of them, and this is the Pena National Palace. It's an extraordinary piece of architecture. I don't remember how long the construction was, but it was a very, very long period of construction through several generations. And there are 5 distinct styles of architecture in the building that were constructed by the different construction managers and architects. One thing that is most amazing about this architecture is that whether you are indoors or outdoors, you can always see the palace. You can always see the architecture. So from any window, you'll be able to look out and you'll see jutting patios, wings of other rooms out there, and the exterior architecture. And when you're outside, everywhere you look, you'll also see parts of the palace. And you can see some of that here with the different balconies that are present. And this is the entrance here to the castle as you go through these arches. And the landscaping is very well maintained. It's a very ornate architecture. You can see some of the detail up here, and then the tile work. All of this is very ornate, very beautiful work. Just amazing. Just amazing. Another picture of the palace from the inside. As you can see, we're looking out, and you can still see some of the palace areas. And again, you'll see a different style of architecture up here at the top. This is a very different style. And then you also have some of this style here as each of these different layers were built. Very beautiful, very ornate, very unique. And it's almost like a fantasy world. I mean, you just look around and it just looks like someplace that would be in a fairy tale. Again, you have this ornate Moorish architecture here, the onion domes, the patios where people come out to mingle, and all of these ornate towers as you come in through the gates. And up top, a beautiful view. It's up in the clouds. The mist was blowing over the top of the castle while we were there. And again, you see these beautiful courtyards that were designed for people to take advantage of the outdoor weather in the cool summers that they lived out here. And then we headed on to Morocco. This is a little bit of the countryside as we were passing through the river close to sunset. Just a beautiful scene. And this also shows you some of the countryside. You don't really get a feel for how vast this little area is until you realize the gentleman and his livestock that are down here, how they just seem to be dwarfed in the landscape. These shrubs appear from a distance just to be small, but as you can see, they're quite large, towering over the people and the animals that are out here. Very interesting place, very rocky, again, mostly an arid environment. And then we reached the town of Chefchaouen. Chefchaouen is known as the Blue City. It was painted blue by its founders, which were the Jewish people. This city was mostly Jewish until the Islamic government came and told all the residents there that they had to either convert to Islam or leave. And they were all shown over the hill so that they could leave. But the following occupants, the Muslims that live there today, decided to keep the Blue City. And the blue is a specific type of blue. It's the blue that's used in the Israeli flag, and it's a very big symbolism of Judaism. For those of you that like my surreality collection, you may recognize this. This was the wall that I photographed and eventually turned into the work of art that I call We Are Not Alone. I saw this and it struck me as something that belonged in a Dali painting, and that was kind of the inspiration. Even in its basic form, you can see there's a certain sense of art and surreality in this, but I decided to push it farther for my surreality series. This was our tour guide through the city of Chefchaouen. He showed us around, told us the stories of the city's history, and again, throughout the city, there's this prominent blue color, and there are many mosques where the call to prayers come out. There's loudspeakers that come on and announce that it's prayer time several times a day. On the road, we came across this vegetable stand, and I really loved the way all of these goods were here being presented. And if you're not careful, you might just miss this young man that is here as the proprietor. He's almost disappears into the story of all the fruits and vegetables and hats and other things. And I just thought it was very interesting how he's here managing his produce, managing the market in this roadside stand quite a ways from anywhere. Based on the inventory he has, I imagine that people come from quite a ways to do their shopping and their groceries. Here we are in Marrakech. Marrakech is a modern city, and I was looking at this, and I just noticed a sense of cruelty, the way this horse's ankles are tied together with this piece of rope so he doesn't walk away. Um, you can tell that his legs are deformed from having this rope around his legs for so often and being forced to stand still for so many hours a day until the owner of this cart is hired, in which case he would then be freed to walk. This was probably the most dramatic scene I can remember. When we came to Fez, it's the largest walled city uh, in Morocco, and probably the largest walled city still in the modern world. But when we walked in, we saw a lot of these vendors, and this is one of the first things we saw was this pastry, these honey buns, and we noticed they were just covered with bugs. And I was just, I was just appalled at the way these bugs were just crawling all over this stuff. And people just come and they buy it. And you look at this and you go, wow, this is what life is like where you don't have any type of health rules. And the next day, we came out of our hotel room and we saw these honey buns out there for our breakfast. And I looked at them and I thought, I wonder where they came from. Here we see some craftsmen working in pottery, a very old craft that's performed to sell goods to tourists and locals. This gentleman here is definitely a craftsman. You can see the production of his work. And this is the tannery. To me, this was like a concentration camp for animals. It's a death camp. And the smell that comes out of here is disgusting. When you walk in there, they give you mint leaves to stick in your nostrils so that you don't throw up from the smell. And a lot of people on our tour were getting nauseous and ill. What I found is that you really have to just get used to the smell because the mint covers it up just enough. But when you get a whiff, it becomes overwhelming and it's almost enough to gag you. So the key is really just to be able to tolerate the smell. But you'll see the most interesting part of this is that the people that work in this tannery are working in these dye pits. They're standing in them. They themselves are being dyed by the chemicals they work in. And I'm sure this is not a healthy thing for them to be standing and working with these chemicals that are meant to dye leather. And again, all of these are different colors where they dye the leather and then they make products out of them. Everything from belts to jackets and purses. The white part of this is lime, which is extremely caustic. And I just can't imagine how people can work in these lime pits that really just are meant to age the raw hides and turn them into leather. These are some of the leather products that are made, everything from baskets to purses, shoes, ottomans, you name it. If it can be made from leather, it's available in these shops. And again, this is a further view of the tannery. And as I mentioned before, to me, this was like an Auschwitz for animals. The animals here are bringing in skins that from the animals have been slaughtered on their backs, and they enter into the tannery where they're processed. And to me, this was just a very strange type of place. And here you can see you have a gentleman walking through. There's other gentlemen here that are inspecting the hides. making decisions on which ones to buy. And again, here, working in the pits, processing. Very strange. And again, the most saddening part about this is how the animals are being used to carry in these huge piles of skins, and which smell, they smell of death. And so this has got to be a hell for these animals, but this is life in the tannery. This is a panorama of Fez. We spoke a little bit earlier about Fez being the largest walled city. There's 7 gates, and we were told do not go in on your own. Go in with a guide and go in with a certified guide, because you'll never find your way out. And if you get lost inside, it'll cost you a lot to get someone to be your guide to leave. The other thing I mentioned is make sure it's a certified guide. There are a lot of cons that are going on where people that are not licensed certified guides con people into letting them be their guide, and they get into the middle of the city, and then the police officer comes up and basically cites the unlicensed guide and tells him he can't be your guide, and then you're stuck in the middle and you have no way to get out. And then you'll be approached by a variety of licensed guides that will charge you an enormous fee to finish your guided tour and take you back to the gate. So it's really kind of a con job for the tourist. If you're not knowledgeable, you can very easily become a sucker. And we were there during Ramadan. It's an amazing period. During the day, everyone is fasting, and as the sun goes down, there's this mad rush of anger and frustration to collect the food, the goods that the people will eat at sunset for the break fast. And it's a very crowded city. Everyone's pushing and shoving, and if they're bringing their carts, if you're in the way, you'll easily get run over. So it's someplace you want to go with a guide, and you don't want to get lost. This is the main square in Marrakech. This is where the vendors are out. And again, during Ramadan, it was a very curious scene because it's frowned upon to drink water or eat in public. And as a tourist, even if you're there in this 110-degree heat with a bottle of water and you're taking a drink of it, someone who's a fasting Muslim will come up and spit at you, spit at your feet, and curse you for disobeying the sanctity of Ramadan. On the other hand, you'll see vendors' carts where they're selling fresh squeezed orange juice and other snacks, and as long as you're buying it from one of the carts, you're left alone, but don't be caught bringing your own and consuming it. And this is also an interesting scene. Everyone wants to take a picture of the snake handlers, and this is another con. You're told do not try to sneak a picture of the snake handlers, because as soon as you take the picture, then you no longer can negotiate the price. They will come up to you, they will surround you, they will angrily cuss at you for not paying them for their photograph, and then the price can be outrageous. If you want to take the picture, the key is to go up and negotiate up front. Negotiate for $1 or $2, which they won't like. But if you decide to walk away, they'll take it, and you take the picture, and it's done. Versus if you take the picture, it might cost you $50 for that picture before the whole scenario is open and before they make a big scene. And you definitely don't want to be in that scene. I saw a guy that was probably almost 100 feet away with a long lens, and he took a picture of these guys, and the guy that was squatting there was in his face faster than you can imagine, and it was quite an ugly encounter. And these guys, I think I paid them $1 each to be photographed. They were not happy, and I think that I didn't pay them more. I wasn't going to be conned. They knew I knew what I was up to, and they obviously didn't want to smile or in any way pose. They were just going to sit there and let me snap their picture. We went to a garden. This is I believe it's a national garden. A lot of specimen plants kept up, and it was a very beautiful place to take a side tour for the day. Marrakech was very hot, and there were cool places in the shade where we could cool down and be away from the public. But beautiful specimen cactuses and all types of plants. This was an called the Secret Garden, and I'm trying to remember there's a clothing designer, and I just can't remember who it was that basically created this garden, and he's a very famous clothing designer, and it's a very beautiful place to kind of have a seat out of the sun during the heat of the day. This is kind of wrapping up our tours. We pop back to a modern city. This is Paris. We're up at the Arc de Triomphe, looking down the Avenue of Champs-Élysées, and all the roads in the city kind of come to this Arc of Triumph, and the Champs-Élysées is one of the most famous shopping districts, and everyone here was out shopping. It was a beautiful day, and kind of our return to Western civilization before we hopped our plane and went back home. This book is listed on my website. It's Paris to Marrakech. It's down here at the bottom of the photo books page, and it is not currently available for sale on my website. I have 2 more copies. If you'd like a copy of this book, it does come with a signed print of the window view from Marie Antoinette's bedroom of the French Gardens. And I have 2 of those left that are signed and serialized. So be sure to contact me if you would like to have this book and see the rest of the images from this collection. It's a really beautiful collection of art and a transition from modern Western culture to a very conservative Islamic culture. Though on the scale of conservatism for Islamic cultures, Morocco is considered to be a more progressive culture than some of the other countries in the Middle East. But it is still a Muslim country, and most of its inhabitants practice Islam and just to a lesser extent of conservatism. I appreciate everyone joining me today for my tour of Paris to Marrakech and back. I have one more artist talk during Atlanta Celebrates Photography, and that artist talk will take you through a guided tour of my website and show you where to find all of the different portfolios that I've presented. You can also go back to my YouTube channel at any time and see the archives of these talks. And since I have finally mastered the technology of how to do a broadcast, I will probably do more of these and share with you, though not quite as frequently, other portfolios and photography work, and maybe even some technical tips as well. So again, thank you, and have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you at my next virtual talk.